Okay, last question before we conclude. Describe one single issue you would advocate for and tell us how you would do that.
What I currently advocate for, that's an interesting one because I know what I've done. I'm not sure what's coming up. I will continue to advocate for business development in Mesquite, where we look at it very carefully. And we have been doing that all along. We're not driving businesses out of Mesquite. We're not keeping businesses from coming into Mesquite, contrary to what some people say. I heard this argument recently on the Taco Bell. It was the city's fault it took so long. Well, that's not true.
No, it's not
You have
true.
developers and you have licensing and permitting. That was no problem. It just came down to when they decided they wanted to do it, they did it. And as you can see, it's underway. But I'll continue to push for economic development in the community, working hand in hand with the new economic development group, which I think is going to do the job. Somebody said, you know, you're spending a lot of money on something like that. I said, you know, we spent a lot of money before and we don't have any results. And I'm a firm believer in taking a chance, and I think it'll work.
Okay. All right. Any comments or anything you'd like to pass on to the public as we conclude the interview?
Yes. I think a lot about a lot of things.
This is your chance.
Okay. I'm proud of what I've done in the less than 2 years on the council. The first thing I did is I came up to modify an ordinance that was passed to keep Boy Scouts from soliciting for food. Absolutely ludicrous. And I pushed hard and I got it changed. Okay. Another item that came up and somebody spoke to me about it and I've been pushing on it. And it was kind of in the back of the minds of everybody in town. And you know, to some people it's not a big deal, but it is, and it's the cemetery. We need a new cemetery in town. I don't think anybody was realizing that we were about 2 years down the line from shutting this one down because we were out of space. And I've been advocating a center for veterans there so families can stay together when they want to. It's going to be reality and it's right around the corner. Another item that came before council and didn't go anywhere, but I'm bringing it back, it'll be on the next council agenda after this one, is a reduction in the right-of-way fees. And I'm going a little bit stronger on it than my cohort on it, Craig, and we agree on it. Let's hit it hard. So I'm advocating a 1% reduction first year, and then if that works fine, a 1% and a 1% again, so that in 3 years we're done with this thing. Because as Craig Haven said, it's a tax and we don't need another tax. And we can live without it. So that's an issue. Another issue that I'm going to be pushing shortly, let's see here, I've got a list of a few things that I'm working on. The noise ordinance, I think it's going to solve itself. The right-of-way fees, I think it's going to solve itself. Is to get a decent sign ordinance done already. Somehow it got pushed on the back burner, and we talked about that 18 months ago, and I still don't see anything in front of us.
Yeah, that was an issue 2 years ago.
It was an issue 2 years ago, and it's still an issue. So some things kind of get pushed on the back burner, and those are items that I want to work on in the future. And when I mean the future, the immediate future. Another thing that I did start, and I don't know if people are aware of it, was the move to go to paperless city council meetings.
Yes.
And when I suggested that, just in conversation with, I believe, John Willis, and you know, his eyes kind of lit up, and a few other people, like, well, that's a good idea, why don't we do that? And you're going to save $25,000, $26,000 a year, year in, year out, on something like that, which is so simple and it works so neatly. I don't know why it wasn't thought of before.
Yeah.
So that's one. Another thing I did do, and I didn't do it for any personal reasons, was changing the shared use pathway. And that was the strangest one. I gotta talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. I looked at a proposal and I thought this was a shared use pathway, and if nobody's aware of what it is, it's just a continuation of these 10-foot wide bike paths that are set up with federal standards and so forth, to have them all over town. They're really great. We have some now, and they come to dead ends, and they don't go anywhere. So the one that was brought up before council and by staff, and nothing against staff, was to run this thing down along Pioneer by Highland Fairways development. Well, I live around the corner from it. Again, it wouldn't affect me per se, but I said, I better walk around the corner and see what they're talking about here. And I looked at it and I said, I don't know who designed this thing, but it wouldn't work. You know, and very, very expensive, ripping up all the sidewalk, moving this, moving that. I said, why don't we just go the other direction with it? It's eventually going to get developed for the same purpose. And it was like, we can do that? And I said, why can't we do that? Well, NDOT, and I said, you know, NDOT will listen to you. And of course, we were told, well, they won't. Well, they did. And it was a no-brainer. And it should start shortly and get out of our way. And we'll have a nice shared use pathway. A lot more for the dollar than what we were going to get. A lot more. And we're disrupting an entire neighborhood, which didn't make any sense whatsoever. So that was one thing I'm very proud of. Another thing that in the last item that I'll mention to you that I think I'm pleased with was fighting against the sports complex in Mesquite. We couldn't afford it, build it, and they'll come is a fallacy. Build it and they might not come. I think it would have put the city in a dire financial strait to have gone forward with something like this. And I was opposed to it from the beginning, and you notice that it's faded away. And will it be brought back someday? It could be, you know, when we end up with 50,000, 60,000 people here, and we can maybe afford something like that. But this was one of these ventures where the city wanted to jump in with both feet without realizing what the consequences of this might be. And I think once you sit back and analyze the situation, you can pretty much tell if it's going to work. And that's been my philosophy all along. Analyze the situation, see if it's going to work, project ahead, and move on it if it's right. If it isn't right, leave it alone. And that's basically what I've been doing.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Al. We appreciate the time with you today in the Mesquite Citizen Journal. So good luck in the upcoming election. And I'm sure we'll be seeing you out on the campaign trail and all the forums, and we'll be talking to you again.
Great. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.